He begs to be intimate with me, but I always say no. Ha ha ha. The sound of her laughter tore through the room like broken glass. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. My wife, was standing at the center of a crowded restaurant, her friends circling her like satellites, the birthday candles still flickering between half-empty glasses of wine. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. The table went silent for half a beat, and then her friends laughed with her, unsure, nervous. "Come on, Anna," one of them said, glancing at me. "Don't say that in front of him." But Anna just grinned wider, swirling her wine. "Oh, please. He knows it's true." My throat went dry. Every face around the table turned toward me, waiting to see how I'd react. I managed a smile that didn't feel like mine. "Guess that's one way to make a birthday memorable," I said lightly, though my chest was tight. The conversation shifted awkwardly. Someone cracked a joke about married life, and the laughter returned, brittle and forced. But I couldn't hear any of it. I just watched Anna, her laughter echoing in my head. The way she leaned toward her friend Mark, a co-worker, I remembered. Her hand brushing his arm as she whispered something that made him smirk. Something inside me twisted. When the dinner ended, everyone hugged her, handed her gifts, took photos, and said their goodbyes. I stood quietly, smiling on cue, my hand at her back, my body moving automatically. Inside, I felt hollow. On the drive home, the rain had started. The windshield wipers moved rhythmically, the sound filling the silence between us. "That was fun," she said finally, leaning her head back against the seat. "Yeah," I said flatly. She glanced at me. "You're quiet. Do you want me to be honest?" She sighed. "Here we go." "You humiliated me," I said, my voice low. "In front of everyone." She scoffed. "It was a joke." "A joke?" I kept my eyes on the road. "You think joking about me begging for intimacy while your coworker laughs next to you is funny?" Her tone sharpened. "You're overreacting, Ethan." Everyone laughed. Nobody took it seriously. I took it seriously. "Well, maybe you should learn to loosen up," she snapped. "Not everything is about you." That shut me up. Not because she was right, but because it was familiar. The way she twisted things made me feel small for caring. We didn't speak the rest of the drive. When we got home, she went straight upstairs. I stayed on the couch, listening to the faint hum of the heater and the rain against the windows. I tried to brush it off, but something kept needling me. The way Mark looked at her. The way she'd laughed. The way she'd said always, like it wasn't an exaggeration. I checked her social media later that night. New photos from the dinner. There she was, leaning close to Mark, her hand on his shoulder, that same glow she hadn't shown me in months. I stared at the screen until the image blurred. Then I opened our text messages. 3 weeks since she'd replied to my "I miss you." 2 months since we'd been intimate. A year since she'd looked at me like she used to. The next morning, I left early for work, but I couldn't focus. The words replayed in my head. "He begs to be intimate with me." At lunch, I called her. No answer. I texted, "We need to talk tonight." She replied hours later. "Busy. Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow came and went. So did the next. On Friday, I came home early. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I told myself she was still at work, but the light in the hallway was off, the kitchen untouched. I sat at the table, waiting. 9 o'clock. Nothing. I finally picked up her tablet from the counter. I'd never checked it before. I told myself I was just looking for her schedule, but the truth was uglier. I needed to know. It was still logged into her email. My pulse spiked as I scrolled. Messages. Dozens of them. Not work-related. Mark, can't stop thinking about last night. Anna, you're bad. Someone's going to find out. Mark, you didn't say no. Anna, you didn't give me the chance to. My hands went cold. I scrolled further. Photos. Hotel reservations. A message from a week ago. Same room. Same time. Friday. That was tonight. I stood there, staring at the glowing screen. My vision blurred, breath shallow. I grabbed my keys and drove, not thinking, just moving. The hotel wasn't far. When I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her car immediately. It was like being punched in the gut. I parked across the lot, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they ached. I sat there for a long time, the rain streaking down the windshield, the neon sign flickering above the entrance. I told myself to leave. To go home. To let her bury herself in her own choices. But I couldn't. I walked into the lobby, the air heavy with the scent of cheap cologne and carpet cleaner. The woman at the desk barely looked up as I asked for room numbers. I pretended I'd forgotten mine. She pointed down the hall. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't open that door. But I did. The click of the latch was deafening. Inside, the room was dim, the sound of laughter spilling from the bathroom. I saw her clothes draped over the chair, her purse on the floor. A man's jacket hung on the lamp. She came out wrapped in a towel, her hair wet. Her face went pale when she saw me. Ethan. Mark stepped out behind her, half-dressed, eyes wide. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her, at both of them, at the version of my life that was now burning down around me. I can explain, she said, her voice trembling. Don't, I said quietly. Don't insult me with lies. Mark started to say something, but I turned and walked out before he could. Outside, the air was cold. The rain had stopped, but everything still smelled like it. I stood there, numb, watching the city lights blur through the water on my lashes. I didn't drive home right away. I went to the pier, the same place I'd proposed to her 9 years ago. The waves crashed softly against the wood, the sound steady, indifferent. I thought about how she used to laugh when I'd lift her onto my shoulders. How she'd whisper, "You make me feel safe." Funny. Safe was the last thing I'd ever been. When I finally got home, the house felt different. Too quiet. Too clean. Like a museum of what used to be real. I sat on the couch and stared at the empty space beside me. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A message from her. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen like this." I didn't reply. Instead, I looked around at everything we'd built, the pictures, the furniture, the little reminders of love that once felt unshakable. And I realized something that hurt more than betrayal itself. It wasn't that she'd stopped loving me. It was that, somewhere along the way, I'd stopped recognizing the woman I was still willing to forgive. By morning, I was gone. But the echo of her laughter from that night would stay with me forever. Proof of how easily something sacred can be turned into a joke.